What are the biggest myths and misconceptions about intuition? So my name is Eileen. I'm a soul empowerment coach. I'm a healer and therapist. And I believe that intuition is something that we do all have. We all have an inner knowing and an inner compass. But the reality is that for a lot of reasons, we can become very disconnected from that inner guidance from a young age. And we become programmed that we give our power over inner guidance and our wisdom over to everything outside of ourselves instead of listening more to that inner voice. But even that word inner voice can actually present a misconception of what intuition actually is. So if we think about intuition being an inner compass, but if we think about it that we all relate to the world in different ways, we all have different gifts, and even how we process information. Some people tend to be more auditory, some people tend to be more visual, some people kinesthetic, sensory. There is so many different ways that we all interpret the world or we learn or process information. And that is why, when you go to school, some children will find certain types of teaching and certain ways that information is relayed or learning is given. They'll find certain things easier and some other things quite challenging. And it's the same with your intuition. And that is why everyone has different, what we call clear gifts. We all have a sixth sense. It's just, you could say it's more open in some people and it's more used and it's more harnessed and mastered in some people than others. Some people almost feel blocked and closed with their intuition because sometimes it's to do with beliefs. They've never really believed in it, and they've disconnected from it. And they misunderstand what it is and they can be fearful of it. And when you're encouraged to use your intuition and listen to that inner voice or inner knowing or inner hearing or whatever way that those messages come through you, the more that you connect with that and trust that, you become stronger in your intuition. So one of the biggest myths and misconceptions around intuition is it's like this inner voice, that it has to be like a voice, or it has to be something you hear or see or feel or sense or know. Now, sometimes people taste things, people smell things, so everybody is different. And one of the misconceptions and the problems with intuition is that people can get blocked because they expect the messages to come in one particular way. And that can be when people are new to starting to own their intuition or to look for guidance. But it can also, become a problem when we shift and change as individuals and we're evolving and we're expanding. That how our intuition comes through can be different. So sometimes we've maybe always, I know for me, I've had lots of experiences in my life where I've had what you would call clairvoyant images, so images of things and seeing scenes of things happening or situations where I've seen visual things. And I could also get this clear knowing. I didn't know why I knew, but I just got a piece of information. I would just know something inside. It was almost such a strength of sureness. It was like something I was getting a message that is so solid within me, and it was a knowing. And I'm very clear sentence, I feel a lot, very empathic. I've never been someone that's been clairaudient, where I hear things, you know, so I don't hear an inner voice. I tend to feel things or see things, and just sometimes this knowing. Now, when you are developing your intuition, intuition is something like we're constantly mastering it. And even people who would say they're extremely intuitive and they're master intuitives, it's an ongoing process. It's something that takes, you know, a certain amount of, it's like use it or lose it. So you're constantly developing. If you think about a singer is only as good as the last gig, as long as they maintain that usage and they're using it on a daily basis and they're practicing mastering the skill. Or it gets a bit rusty. Intuition is exactly the same. And when you use it, not just on a daily basis, but an hour in hour perspective, you're using it throughout your day, throughout your life, you get more confident and clear in it. And one of the another misconception is that only certain people are intuitive. Of course, some people, it appears to come more naturally, but it's not maybe just because it comes more naturally, it's maybe more obvious to them. But it's also about how aligned they are with their self. So what I would say is, you know, I've always been extremely sensitive and empathic, and often it's like when you're highly sensitive and empathic, you tend to know or notice energetic patterns. You feel and you sense energetic patterns often a lot quicker. So yes, that does give you an advantage. But also empaths and sensitives can have information overload. So the problem they have is discerning what that energy is. Is that energy them or is it something else? And it's differentiating between different people's energetic patterns. And like everyone, every single person has wounding, they have trauma, they have conditioning and beliefs. And if they're not discerning and objective about what their intuition is bringing through, they can start adding a story to something or believe that it means something else that it doesn't really mean. So intuition is about trusting when something comes through and recognizing if it is your intuition or if it is actually a belief or wounding. And recognizing that you do have an inner compass. And sometimes we just don't even recognize that it's actually there because it's kind of subtle and you've not brought a conscious awareness to the way that that information comes through. So part of building your intuition is having more conscious awareness. Now, there is lots of other myths around intuition, and these can come from cultural and religious and beliefs, and people can have all sorts of ideologies what intuition. Some people think it's the work of something dark, when the reality is, I believe we're all made in the likeness of God and the light in the universe, and we all have this light within us. We're all part of the light, and we've been given gifts, and we've been given an inner compass for a reason. And we are all sovereign beings. We may not recognize it, but we are all sovereign and we're all that light. But the reality is, in a very distorted world, we have gave our power over to other human beings who we place on a pedestal to be more powerful or more religious and more spiritual and more knowing than us. And that doesn't mean that we can't learn from other people and that we can't, be taught things and to expand our awareness and understanding. But on a very human level, we're seeing this right now. It playing out in many different dynamics in the world very strongly. The examples of how much power we have given over to other people, to organizations, and to, I suppose, all sorts of societies and even education systems, we've gave our power over. We just have to look at how much power we gave over to technology, AI, and we're letting that control us. We're letting that actually believe, we give over our power to that and believe that that is telling truth. And we lack discernment. And we've seen a lot of evidence over the last 5-6 years of how easy it is for people to be conditioned, to be programmed, and to not listen to their inner voice, to allow the power or the control or the manipulation or the fear that is pushed out, into the collective by others, how other people kind of fall down because they've not developed a strong connection, their soul and their power and that inner compass. So one of the biggest myths is also in misconceptions is this, that your sixth sense and your intuition, there's something wrong with it, that is not pure, when the reality is that is part of your sovereignty. Your inner compass, your intuition is nature's gift. You think about just senses alone, how animals sense things, and animals tend to know when there's earthquakes or danger. They behave certain ways and they tend to know when they start to move, right? Or they will react in certain ways. Animals can also sense things sometimes about people or other things. They just sense things. And that's an example where we have actually stopped using our senses. And again, no matter how intuitive you think someone else is, or even if you think they're psychic or a medium, or if you put these categories onto them, we can give our power over to these people. And that's why it's so important for us as an individual to develop our intuition and our discernment within ourselves, and not keep giving over to other people. I've been a big part of the healing industry and the, what you would call spiritual growth and that kind of work for a long, long time. I've been studying the field for about 35 years and been a huge consumer of a lot of things holistic and healing and spiritual. And along that way, I would also meet a lot of people, a lot of beautiful people, well-meaning people, but a lot of people with opinions. I had a lot of rare and complex health issues from a young age and had medical harm, and sort of things that would cause injury to the body. And, one of the things that I was never short of was getting opinions, and often unrequested opinions from other people who were very strong in their opinions, and a lot of them would say they were psychic, intuitive, and they would have a message. And a lot of it didn't resonate. And some of it, sometimes then I started to question, think, oh, maybe that is true, when a lot of it wasn't true. And in a world where there is so much information overload and there is so many things pulling for direction and opinion, we have to learn to trust ourselves. But trusting yourself is not about trusting your ego, and it's not trusting your belief systems, because belief systems are belief systems. And this is where people can get very hooked into the belief systems. And if we think about beliefs, are just stories that we tell ourselves. And let me give you a type of scenario. So you may trust someone and you've trusted them all your life, and they come and they tell you a story about someone else, and they tell you about a situation, and because you trust them, you believe them, and then you start believing that whole story and the whole part about what they've said about this person in that scenario. And you keep believing it, and you keep believing everything it goes with that, until further down the line you're not quite sure, there's something not quite adding up. And then you start to recognize that you've gave your power over, and you've spent most of your life believing this person, and what they told you was just a story. Now, part of that story may have been partly what they genuinely believed, but it does not mean it's truth. And it's like we all live in a world, and we all can have experiences, and every experiences, we all have a story, kind of a story to tell about that experience. But how we see that experience and what we believe about that experience can be very different, because we can see it from all different angles. And when we see things from different angles, we have an emotional attachment to it, and it does not mean it's truth. So when we're getting intuition, intuition is like a clear compass. And if you can imagine a compass like a map, and when the map or the compass is set at north, south, east, and west, and and it's a true compass and it's working correctly, it will show you true north, it will show you south, east, and west. If that compass is not working correctly, or there's something off about it, I think compasses have got what do you call it? I've got the word. Magnets in them. So if you can imagine, but what if something's not right within the compass? And you keep going along the wrong direction, but you've had this compass for a long time and you thought it was working, but you're constantly going in that direction because you believe it's working and you believe that thing. Now, we all have an inner compass, but the inner compass does not come from the head. It comes from a place within us that is, if you can think about it, it's the space within us that is pure, that is clear, and it's something that comes through and helps us, guide us on a day-to-day basis. The problem is that most people are so busy, so conditioned, so programmed, and sometimes so invested in one opinion or one outcome, or they want something to happen a certain way, that they don't really listen to their voice. They don't know how to be still. They don't know how to be calm. They don't know how to recognize when that intuitive hit is an intuitive hit, an intuitive nudge, or when it's a wounding, a trigger, a belief, right? And that is what makes, that's what helps you discern your intuition. It helps you master your intuition, helps you grow in your intuition. And knowing how it comes through for you, what is your strengths, what is the easiest way it comes through for you, and building confidence in that helps. And also how you can get reassurance. These things help. So there is a lot of myths, I've not even talked about. There is lots of myths, but what I would say is the biggest myth is expecting your intuition to come a certain way. So, sometimes I hear people saying, I keep waiting for this voice, but there's nobody speaking to me. So they're actually waiting for a voice, where actually there may be a feeling, an energetic feeling, where they know, and there's an energetic shift. But it's, again, knowing what is actually a trigger, where you're just being triggered by something. And also not jumping to conclusions when you get a piece of information. Now, sometimes people see visions and see information. Sometimes people are also showing things out in the universe. The universe keeps pointing them to something, but they don't want to believe that because their ego is getting in the way. Now, if this is an area that, you would love to develop a little bit more and you could be doing with some help, check out my 7-day Soulful Intuition course. It is a mini program that is packed with lots of tips and some daily exercises. It's drip fed over the 7 days, but don't worry, you can take as long as you want to do it. It's not something that you have to do just within the 7 days. It's just for people who want to have that momentum. And what it does is help you actually break down how intuition is coming through for you, and different things that can help you discern when it is your intuition, when it may not be, and how to look at your intuition from probably a different perspective, and to build that confidence, build more clarity and connection with your intuition, and to get it more stronger. And, remember, look at your intuition as part of your inner compass, part of your sovereignty, part of being a spiritual being, as being given this innate wisdom within you. And the more that you work on being able to discern what is your intuition and what is not, it gives you more strength, courage, and power, and helps you get more aligned in your life and your purpose in different areas of your life. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, or if there's anything you would like to comment or even ask me a question about that you'd like me to talk about, put the questions below. And I'll share a link to the 7-day Soulful Intuition Journey and a few free resources that you might find interesting. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everyone.